Hello everybody, my name is Maxwell Park, and for my Honors Academy project, I made a short mini-movie. It's about 50 minutes long. It's a musical as well, and the cast is entirely produce. And so my senior project was a featurette. It was a mini-movie. Here's the little story blurb. Trey the tomato grows up in a world where veggies and fruits are divided. This all comes to fruition when Trey discovers that he is not a veggie like he once thought, but rather a fruit. In a fit of confusion, Trey winds up on the bread venture of a lifetime, where he finds friends, romance, conflict, and more, all towards finding out the answer to a question. And now, I will play you the trailer for Tomato Tale.
What happens when your life is overturned? Trey is a veggie, or thinks he is.
I'm a tomato, a veggie, living free. Good morning, Dad.
Morning, son. You mind grabbing the paper?
Of course, Dad.
Fruit!
I'm a fruit? Dear parents, I'm going to be leafing for a while to find myself. I have to know my roots, but I promise I'll be back.
I have something to show you.
What exactly am I looking at?
It's a map.
A map?
It should lead you right to the great and knowledgeable Tree of Truth.
The great knowledgeable Tree of Truth, but how do they know about that? Code Red. Pineapple!
Help!
From the Park Pair, the first ever live action musical.
Best friend Trey and May!
Will you stop?
Romance, adventure comedy produce featurette. Pineapple, pineapple, pineapple. Made for tomatoes, by tomatoes.
Banana nanners nana banana.
With tomatoes.
He's red as a tomato right now.
Coming soon.
All right, let's gooby dooby go.
Well, there you have it. That was the trailer for Tomato Tale, which was a lot of fun to make. That was just one of the small parts of this entire project as a whole. That I made the movie, we did all of that, and then also marketing with making a trailer and whatnot. So the overall goal of this project was to create a fun, entertaining experience for families that can simultaneously inspire the younger generation to create art with the resources around them. This will become more clear as the presentation continues. So this would be a basic timeline. I know this is all very linear, but the actual progression of this project was much more intertwined. And so, but first, obviously, it started with the initial idea. So it starts with the idea, and then from there, we went into writing, and then once the script was fully written, which there were revisions along the way, but it was pretty compact here. So then we went into recording songs and filming, recording dialogue, editing, and then the promotion and screening, of course. So, the initial idea. It all starts with an idea. So, ironically enough, it began in the kitchen. This is where my sister and I brainstorm a lot of ideas. This was a joint project. I did the bulk of the work, but I definitely couldn't have done this project without my sister. She's a very gifted writer, so we both wrote it together. We came up with the idea together. She voices one of the characters. She helped write the music lyrically, and she helped puppet the fruits and vegetables because we always needed someone doing that. So we came up with the idea in the kitchen. It started as a parody song. Funny enough, it started as a parody of the Muppet song, Am I a Man or Am I a Muppet? But what we were going to do is Am I a Fruit or Am I a Veggie? And then that spiraled into a musical trilogy in a way, because we'd never done a trilogy before. My sister and I, we always try to push ourselves with a new project that's different from what we've done, just so we don't get stuck doing the same thing. And then from there, we were like, well, instead of doing a short little trilogy, what if we just do one big musical that's longer than anything we've done? And it definitely ended up becoming longer than we thought it would be. We thought it would maybe be 20 minutes, but it ended up being about 50. And so from there, it became Tomato Tale. Writing, we made it all in Google Docs. We would brainstorm for a while. It happened December, Christmas break of 2021. And over that 2 weeks, we pretty much got the entire outline. And then after that, we started to write it down and get it a little more finalized. So we ran through, outlined, and finalized, started thinking about musical integration, because that was a key component. We really did want to focus on the musical aspects. And so from there, we began writing full scenes, as well as writing full songs. And then we also finalized the plot and dialogue. And then the last thing was adding in camera movements, which was super crucial, mainly just for my own organization, because I was filming the whole thing and editing as well. So within the script, I wanted to make sure that to keep everything streamlined and flow really well, I wanted to just have it organized and have it there, so then when it comes time to film, I'm not just making it up and having to figure it out on the spot. Whereas I can go back to the script, and there's room for leeway and collaboration and different creative directions, but it definitely helped keep everything more efficient when it came to film, because I could be like, okay, what shot do we need to get next? Well, this is what I wrote down. But then also I could look at it, and if I'm like, oh, well, I can't actually do that right now, we can figure out a different way to do it. So it kept everything moving quick. Here are just some more pictures. The way I would write down music is I have all the melodies in my head, but it was nice to have the chords, especially just with the lyrics. This helped keep it organized for myself. But once again, when it came to actually composing and writing the songs, I just knew how it went because I'd played it so much. So principal photography, that's actually filming it. So first, once again, this is all kind of intertwined, but firstly it would be to film dialogue scenes. These would be scenes without any musical quality, strictly movement or conversations. And so this would be really easy because it would just be simple like A-B camera coverage, where we'd get like over-the-shoulder shots of this character talking over the shoulder, this camera, and then maybe a wide. And it's really easy because the characters aren't actually saying anything. We just kind of wiggle them around, and then later in editing, I add the voiceover and then add the mouth animation to make it look like they were actually saying things. But the thing with principal photography that I learned a lot about is just how many different elements there are. The biggest one is prop making. So as you can see, there's a little map here. We had to make that. Set designing for Mr. Gardner, who's the old tomato, the old wise tomato in the town. We wanted his house to look old, antique-ish, and so we just got a bunch of books. We tried to find the oldest ones we could find, just stack them up, give it a little more of an atmospheric feeling. And then on top of that, we actually had to buy the actors, and then assemble them with fishing line and tape, and then puppet them. So that was a big step. And then before this, obviously, we'd have to charge camera equipment, empty SD cards. And then along the way, I like to film scenes, and then that night I would edit them. So along the entire way, I could see it slowly progress little by little, rather than filming it all and then editing it all in one big chunk at the end. So the equipment I used a Canon EOS 80D DSLR, primarily with an 18 to 35 millimeter lens. And the microphone, I used a Rode Video Mic Pro R camera mount shotgun. And so that's what we filmed all of the voiceover and vocals and dialogue on. I would just stand that up in a boom pole in my basement, and then we'd record here, because the floor is carpeted, so it sounds a lot better. So here are just some examples of set designs. This is the puppet that my sister made. I take no credit for this whatsoever. This could have been an Honors Academy project in and of itself. But this is one of the characters, and so that was super cool to watch her do that. And then I made Apple's evil chair, which makes a few appearances. And then especially just the little stuff like this. Like this is a maybe 5-second scene, but we wanted it to look good. And so we set up this whole little scene, cut out these little props. Same thing here. It looks a lot bigger on the TV, but that was maybe this big. So that's cool. And then here's a few more. There's the boat, the pharmacy. This is just one of the characters. This was a sign. Once again, this sign makes one appearance in the entire thing, but it was crucial to the plot, so we wanted to make it. And then this would be an example of a shopping cart, or a shopping basket with all of our actors and what it would look like. Here's some more props. This is our basement, which we just converted into a work zone. So I'm grateful to my parents for letting us make that a pig pen for a bit. And then this and that, little cherub tomatoes. So you see, there's just a lot. And then actually filming it, which was a big process. A lot of the filming was done in Maxwell Park and also Lindenwood Nature Preserve. So I wanted a lot of it to be outside. And so we got to do that, which was great because it was beautiful. We filmed a lot over the summer. So it was just great to be outdoors, especially with family and friends. Here's my dad helping puppet. There's my sister. As you can see, we would use wooden dowels with string to make them walk a little more uniformly, because we wanted to have leeway and we wanted it to look homemade. So we wanted it to have that feel to it. But certain times we would want the character facing the screen while walking, and that would definitely be more of a struggle. So we kind of had to tinker with different methods, and that was the one we landed on, because they would stay kind of looking the same way, but they would still keep walking and moving forward and have that feel. And also the camera here, as you can see, a lot of the filming I was on the ground. So it was very uncomfortable, but it was worth it to get the shot. And it was also very uncomfortable for a lot of the puppeteers because we'd be standing in water or they'd be crouched over. It was a very physical shoot. It was fun, but it was a lot. Here's some more. We converted our kitchen into a set. As you can see, it looks a lot better once the camera's like zoomed in, and everything's miniature, which was another reason why we made it with fruits and vegetables. Which I guess I haven't talked about that very much. We chose fruits and vegetables because they're easily accessible, they're cheap, and especially when it comes to set designs, this is just 3 pieces of cardboard and some aluminum foil, and we can make it look like he's in a life-size evil lair. Whereas if we were using real humans, we'd have to pay the humans for one. You don't have to pay an apple. And we'd also have to build giant mega sets, but we didn't have to do that here. So there were definitely some hurdles with the fact that they weren't real humans, but I don't know, you win some, you lose some. It was great, it was fun. And then more filming, just some more sets and props and whatnot. Just a lot that goes into it. So recording the actual backing tracks, this would be composing and recording the instrumentation of songs. No vocals yet, just instruments. And this would be for scenes in which the characters sing. All of it was done entirely in GarageBand with MIDI. So I have a keyboard here, right? I think I have a photo. So this would be my setup. I have my keyboard and then I plug my computer into it. I connect it to GarageBand, which is a free software on Apple devices. And then with the keyboard, I can recreate the sound of any instrument to an extent. Obviously, it's not perfect because it's just a free program, but it gets the job done and it sounds pretty good for what it is. And what I would do is I'd have the scene. So it's a little different depending on the processes. For a scene in which the character is singing vocally with lyrics and whatnot, I'd have to do that song first and like get that fully recorded, and then I would go film the scene and then edit that. But for scenes where it's just scoring, so just instrumentation just to enhance the visuals and enhance the storytelling, where the character isn't singing but there's just a conversation going on or action or something, I would have the scene visually playing and then I would be composing real time to that scene to make sure I hit all the marks and make it enhance the scene even more. And so this is what that would look like. Just slowly zooming into that. And then filming the musical scenes. This would be scenes that require timing so that they line up to the beats and rhythm. Backing tracks are necessary, but no vocals yet. And then this is for when the footage is timed to music, because there would be certain times where I want the actor to jump on like this song or something as if they're dancing. Obviously they're not, but then when you put the music in there, it makes it feel like that. So then actually recording dialogue and vocals. While filming and recording backing tracks, we were recording dialogue and vocals. Recording dialogue and vocals was key for editing, timing, and eventually the mouth animation, which I'll talk a lot about later. So we had the full microphone camera set up in the basement, which I talked about. And then an alternative, if we couldn't get whoever here into my basement to record, I just record with my iPhone, because that can sound just as good. And once you tweak it, it sounds great. And then editing. So once again, this was all intermingled, but this was a big part. This was arguably the most time-consuming part, in fact. And editing included the basic layout, the sound design, color correction, and then digital effects, which would be like masking, overlays, graphics, etc. And the mouth animation, which was just right off the bat I knew it was going to be hard, because I wanted it to look good. I wanted it to work. I didn't just want it to be distracting, because that was a big thing. If it pulled you out of the film, I didn't want to have it at all. So I wanted it to be solid and look good. And so the device I used a 14-inch MacBook Pro with 1 terabyte of storage, and 16 gigabytes of memory, and an M1 chip. And I actually bought this new computer over the summer because I had some other work projects, as well as Tomato Tail. And I needed a souped up computer because my old computer was kind of getting a little bit slower and it didn't have as much space. And working with just this much footage to this scale, I mean, this is a 50-minute project, so that's however many hours of footage and hours of songs and hours of vocals and dialogue, because there's so many different takes over and over again. I'm downloading this all onto the computer, and so getting a good computer to handle that was great. It was a really good choice. It was edited entirely within Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects, which I'm familiar with. They're both great. And this is what the finished timeline looked like. If you're not familiar with editing timelines, this might mean nothing to you. but if you've ever seen them, this is a lot. There were 17 audio tracks alone, and that's for dialogue and sound effects and music and just everything. And then these would be all the visuals. All of the mouth animation was done in After Effects as opposed to Premiere. So this is the Premiere timeline, and that's the finished one. That's 50 minutes. Moving on, this would be just some examples of scenes. So as you can see here, if you can see all these little dots, which you may not be able to, but basically for the mouth animation, at first I was doing it in Premiere, and I was doing it frame by frame, and it was just super monotonous, and it took forever, and it was looking okay, but not the greatest. And the worst thing is that the computer was saving stuff in such a way, because there was so much it was trying to computate, and so much it was trying to learn at the same time. When I would open it up like a day or two later, it would delete certain mouth animation parts, which was awful. And so I was trying to figure out how I can work around that, because Premiere Pro just couldn't handle it. And so eventually I figured out I could use After Effects, so that's where that comes in. And After Effects, what I could do is it would track the movement of the actors in the produce. And so the mouth would already kind of move with them. But there was still some tweaking with that, because it's not the best, especially if the actors are moving a lot. Like here you can see there's a lot of motion blur. That would be if it's shaking around. After Effects, it can try its best, but it just won't be perfect. And so with that, then I'd have to go in frame by frame again. But luckily After Effects can handle that, so it won't delete anything. And then on top of that, the way their mouth opens and closes, it's like a puppet, so it's every syllable. So I would have to go like that and then cut it, and then watch it over, make sure it works. If it doesn't work, tweak it again, tweak it again, tweak it again, and just keep going. And so that was definitely the biggest part of everything, was I could get a whole scene laid out in less than an hour, but then doing the mouth animation was huge, especially when it came to songs. So here's just some more graphics, and I have some more photos. What was good about having the laptop is that I could go anywhere. So here I'm at the Clyde Club Room, listening to music and editing. This is when I was in an airport. This is me getting frustrated because it just took so long. It took a very long time. And then here's me, I plugged it into my TV so I could watch it on a bigger screen. And here I will show you a finished scene. This is the scene including the tunnel troll, which is the puppet that my sister made. It has a song as well, and this is just a good well-rounded scene to show you an example.
Alright, let's gooby gooby go.
I can't tell my root from my sprout.
If only we had a flashlight.
I've got one.
Goober, why didn't you say anything?
You never asked.
Guys, look.
I think we've had our fun, but it's probably best if we just...
What was that?
Did anyone else just soil themselves?
So you want to see the tree?
Yeah?
Oh, you got places to be? You simply thought it would be easy just to breeze a lemon squeezy. No, you gotta get to me. All I ask is a simple riddle. A choice for Trey to make. For he's got to decide who will live, who will die, and he can't make a single mistake. If the choice he makes is wrong, and he kills the incorrect, then all three die at the hands of me, and I eat your delicious snacks.
So there you have it. That's a scene example, which if you'd like to watch more, then you feel free to go see the whole thing. So after it was fully done, and then this was kind of during it as well, but after it was fully done, it came time for promotion and whatnot. And so my sister and I decided to create an Instagram to share some of the journey of Tomato Tail, which it eventually developed into a page in which we both share our creative projects. But at first, it started strictly as a Tomato Tail page. Here would be some examples of posts. So feel free to check that out if you'd like. And then another big component was the soundtrack, which, once again, I originally composed the entire soundtrack. Lyrics, my sister helped me with that, but all the instrumentation and everything including that, I did. And I thought it would be cool to just get it on like Apple Music and whatnot, because I thought it would be neat to be able to see the soundtrack that I wrote up there. So I figured out how to do that. And this includes everything. So this is like the entire soundtrack. If you were to look up a movie score and a movie soundtrack, this would be the equivalent. So here it is on Apple Music. I just think it's cool. We got to name all the songs as well. And then I made the album art. So I think this is a little side tangent, but one of the biggest things I learned from this project as a whole was just how many little things there are. And this would be a perfect example. How many little things there are within a movie or television world when it comes to producing a project. Someone wrote the entire soundtrack and score, and they're more well known, but he or someone else named all the songs, and someone else had to actually upload this to the music distribution software, which I'll show you, and then someone had to make the album art. So being able to do all of those was really cool, and obviously I just dipped my toes into all of these different pools, but seeing this on a large scale would just be incredible. And so this was a cool insight with this project. So I published it using TuneCore. It was about $50 just to publish this. And here you can see, I wasn't doing it for money at all. I was just doing it for my own amusement because I thought it would be neat. But I have made a whopping $1.33 so far. So if you want to go stream it, you'd be helping out a lot. But yeah, so that was really cool to see. I just think it's so cool that I can just look it up on my phone and it'll be there anywhere, really. And so the actual screening and the promotion. So once the project was completely finished and exported, it came time to schedule a date for the screening. I spoke with a lot of people at Concordia. So I spoke with Mrs. Erdos, Mrs. Schuler, Mr. Fairking, Mr. Storm, Mr. Murphy, and Mrs. Weehee, all of whom helped me plan this event and make it work with other scheduled programs that Concordia was already having in the auditorium. And I'm so thankful to all of them for helping this passion project come to life. It was very, very cool to have a screening with an awesome turnout. So before the promotion, I wanted to make stickers. I made a little playbill. I wanted to make posters and then obviously have ads and like social posts. And all of the stickers and posters and whatnot were done in Adobe Illustrator. So here would be an example. I designed the playbill, and then at Concordia I got them printed. They have a playbill printing machine. Well, for this it's called the plate bill. But did that and then got to have it physically. So we made however many just to pass them out at the event, the live screening. And this was another cool thing. There were so many little aspects of this project where it started as an idea and then it turned into some digital form, whether it be written or a song or a design. And then in this case, it physically got turned into a tangible thing that I could hold. So being able to see that progression was awesome. It just made it all that more real of an event and a project. So here's a sticker that someone put on their laptop. Here was the auditorium view. And there were some posters which we put around the school. And so the actual screening, there's me with my sister showing Tomato Tail. It was a complete success. It was super fun. We think over 200 people showed up. There were some minor technical difficulties at the start. We were figuring out how to make the sound work perfectly, which that was a fun little struggle. But that was good. That was like one final obstacle to overcome because this project was just filled with them editing wise and recording and just everything. It was a great project, but there were a lot of leaps. And before it, we actually played some shorts, which by shorts, my sister and I just played a couple of our other videos that we've done over the years. We played those beforehand to make the event feel a little more well-rounded, and then also just show what else we like to do. We had a merch table, and then we also had refreshments. We had a Concordia photo backdrop. And we wanted to make it a fun communal event. It was just inviting for everyone. So here was the actual screening. There we're standing on the stage talking. This was a picture after the whole shoot with my entire family and some friends. This was the first thing you saw when you walked in. And then there's me with some other friends. Here was me with like everyone. There's the Concordia backdrop. And then we also made these fun little cardboard things, whether you can see those or not. But it was fun. On top of that, on the back of the plate bill, we had a QR code that would take you to a Google form where you could leave a review, which we got about 60 responses, which was super neat because we wanted to just see what people thought. It was, I don't know, it was a cool event. And so that was fun to read through all those. And this was one of the coolest things that came from this project. So, okay. I did a lot of video work for this local organization called BLAST, which is the Black Lutheran Alumni Scholarship Team. And one of the people that runs that organization is Marty Wright, who was the first African-American news anchor in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And so I started doing work for BLAST, volunteer, and then eventually I got hired. And so I established a good connection with Marty Wright. And then when my sister and I were writing Tomato Tail, we eventually came to the conclusion, we should open the script with a news report and then end it with a news report. Who will voice the news anchor? And I thought, oh my goodness, I know Marty Wright. This will be perfect. And in the movie, she plays a character named Marty Ripe. So it was just perfect. But I get her, and it's great. And then later, once everything is done, and it's before the screening, Marty Wright is talking to me, and she says, oh, well, I bet if you talk to Eric Olson of Channel 21, he would love to do a little story on you for the news. And I was like, that would be neat, okay. So we reached out to him, he was interested, and then he came and he filmed a little news segment, and we made it on the news. They aired it a few times, and it's just super neat. So now I'm going to show you that.
Well, if you ever fret over the future of the world, you'll be relieved to meet the young subjects of our next story.
Eric Olson is out in 21 countries.
Max and Violet Park are siblings, but sibling rivalry is a phrase they don't really understand.
We love working together. I have never found anyone that works so well with me. We have great chemistry to work together.
Max and Violet Park are brother and sister, and possibly 21 countries' youngest and most inventive filmmakers.
I'm a tomato, a veggie, living free. Good morning, Dad.
Morning, son. You mind?
We wanted to show, hey, we didn't have a crazy big budget for this. We didn't have any budget for this. Let's just use the food in our fridge.
Using food from their fridge, Max and Violet Park made a movie, a musical called Tomato Tail, about a young tomato raised as a vegetable, only to discover he's really a fruit.
Fruit! I'm a fruit? Dear parents.
The little tomato embarks on a dangerous journey of self-discovery, braving hardship and evil. Max and Violet wrote the script, wrote the songs, Violet created the puppets, and family and friends did the voices. Former 21 Alive reporter Marty Wright appears as news anchor Marty Ripe.
Protesting his radical takeover and will be banned.
Well, what do you think of these kids?
I just think that they are amazing. I'm in awe of them. I idolize them and their work.
Tomato Tail is shockingly entertaining, fresh and funny, with a message we all need to hear these days: accept who you are and respect yourself.
Ultimately, the whole message of the piece is we all start as seeds.
Is the end product here better than what you had envisioned at first?
1,000,000 times better.
Yes, definitely.
We thought we were just going to be making a short little 5-minute little video about a tomato, and it just grew so much.
Last Friday night, a crowd gathered at Concordia High School, the Park siblings' alma mater, for Tomato Tail's world premiere. The reaction was never in doubt. The filmmakers have more projects planned, so the applause, the media attention, the buzz are things they're just going to have to get used to as their careers unfold and their inspiring sibling partnership continues to bear fruit. Eric Olson reporting out in 21 country.
I love that. Marty
so
Wright.
I know.
So as you can see, it just blew up into something we never expected it to. As Violet said, we thought we were making a short little 5-minute parody video, and then it turned into a 50-minute mini movie, and then we got a news story, which was just super cool. I don't know why it's so cool to see yourself on TV, but that was super neat. So final thoughts. Obviously, I learned an incredible amount. One of the biggest things was time management, because I was just doing this in my spare time. This was during junior year of high school, so not only do I have just a bunch of workload, I have a bunch of homework that I'm trying to do, studying for APs and whatnot. So a bunch of homework, and then I'm doing a lot of video work as well. So like paid video work, which that had deadlines. And so within that, I just find any time that I could to film, any time that I could to edit, any time that I could to record songs. And so there's a lot of late nights and just making it work. I don't know. Luckily, I love this project so much. And so it wasn't ever really that much of a stress inducer to be like, oh man, I gotta work on Tomato Tail now. It would be what I'm looking forward to. I'd be working on homework or working on actual work, and then I'd be like, oh, after this I get to work on Tomato Tail. So that was great. On top of that, patience. That came with the mouth animation especially, and a lot of just filming and whatnot. I learned a lot of After Effects development, which was great, because that's an incredible program, and I've only just scratched the surface. But doing this project, I learned an immense amount. And then, as I've talked about, just how many moving pieces there are. There's promotion, music distribution, prop making, production, post-production, musical composition, editing, sound design, auditory mixing, color correction, etc. That's just to name a few. There are just so many moving pieces, and this is on such a small scale. So now imagine this on a Hollywood blockbuster level. There are just thousands of people working on this, and they all have their own individual job that makes this project come to life. Another great thing that I learned was just working with other people in collaboration. This was a very collaborative experience. As they said in the news report, this was all just done with friends and family, specifically my sister. But getting to work with friends and family, especially on set, it's such a creative experience because we're filming it, and then we had the script, obviously, but then our friends would sometimes pitch ideas, and we'd like them, and we'd be like, oh my goodness, that's perfect. Yeah, we'll find a way to include that. So it was nice to have that loose experience where it wasn't super strict and cutthroat. It was a much more relaxed, just fun, hey, let's make something creative and let's make it fun. And then one of the biggest things was just sticking with a creative vision for an extended period of time. This project took about a year, a little less than, but about a year from the initial idea to the screening. And sticking with it and trying to have the motivation and the dedication the whole time was definitely a struggle at times, but I'm just so happy that I stuck with it, and it shows that I can hopefully and potentially do this in the future, because real blockbuster level movies can take years, full-on years. There's so much development, there's so many moving pieces, as we've said, and this is only 50 minutes. Now imagine if it was 2.5 hours long. So that was just good to know that I have the mental capacity to do that, which that was great, and I would do it a million more times. And then creating content for all ages, we wanted to make it family friendly. So that means appeal to the kids, but then also appeal to the adults. So we didn't want to make it too kiddish. We didn't want to make it too mature. And so that was a fun challenge. But my sister and I are already kind of in that middle. So it relatively came easy to us, which was fun. And the biggest thing was just encouraging creativity and imagination no matter what resources are available. So the biggest reason my sister and I chose fruits and vegetables, and we chose to keep the wooden dowels and the strings and the tape in. It has that homemade feel. It looks a little messy, and we wanted to show kids specifically, but anybody, that this is something you could achieve at home. With enough dedication and enough drive, and the motivation to do so, it is possible. And nowadays with an iPhone, or with any phone really, I mean, you can just go and film this. Obviously, it doesn't have to be to this extent. You don't have to do the mouth animation. You don't have to do songs. You don't have to do anything. But if you have a fun little idea and you want to put it out there and you want to make just a physical video or a song or something, it's possible. You can do it. And so I think that was great to be able to emphasize that with the fact that we just used tomatoes and peaches and whatnot. And yeah, if you'd like to watch the full Tomato Tail in length, it's available on my sister and I's YouTube channel, The Park Pair. And we also have some other projects on there if you'd like to check them out. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.